y'all, my name is Treasure Whiteside, and this is Be Unique Chit Chats, where we talk about Jesus, life, and marriage. On today's episode, we're going to talk about my testimony. We're going to talk about who I was before Christ, what led me to Christ, and who I am now. So grab your coffee, whether that's iced or hot, grab your tea, get you a blanket. Let's get straight to it. So if you don't know, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I am also the youngest of 5 siblings. So I'm the baby, I'm spoiled, I'm the brat, I get what I want. So I am the youngest of 5, and my life kind of looked a little different than a lot of my siblings. So it pretty much just looked like me growing up in a household with just my mom. I sometimes joke and say that I grew up like an only child because pretty much by the time I was in middle school, all of my siblings were out the house. My dad passed away when I was 8. So it was just really me and my mom in the house. I tell my siblings sometimes that I feel like life was a little harder for me because it was just me and my mom. And all the struggle that, I had to go through, it was just me being the child in the house. Not saying that they didn't go through the same struggles that I went through, but it was different because they physically were like next to each other. So like I said, it was just my mom and I in the house for a long time. And, my mom and I started off with the best relationship. I feel like my mom was my best friend. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that was my dog, my girl. I grew up in a household where my mom, a black, beautiful queen, had to work 2-3 jobs to provide for us. And sometimes that still wasn't enough. So that looked like sometimes me coming home and the lights being off. Me coming home to no hot water. Me coming home to no food. There were times where we would have to boil water on the stove in order to just have a hot bath. It was times where I had to live with someone else because our household was just too unbearable to live, or maybe we got evicted. I pretty much grew up in a struggle. I didn't understand why other people had it more than me. So as a kid, I unfortunately had to grow up a lot faster than I wanted to, than I should have. My dad passed away when I was 8 years old, and so from a young age, I struggled in so many different areas. So not only am I dealing with the struggles of like not having any money and my mom working 2 jobs, so I'm barely seeing her, I'm also dealing with the grief and confusion of losing a dad at a young age. And that confusion turned to anger as I got older. I got to a point to where I was mentally and physically exhausted from struggling every single day. My mom and I started bumping heads. We started arguing. We started fighting. So I moved out of my mom's house when I was 15, I believe. Something happened to me my sophomore year that made me just say, forget everybody, forget everything. And I went numb. My sophomore year of high school, I got raped. I don't remember a lot from when it happened. I think that whole year it's a blur. I still didn't understand what completely happened to me. I didn't understand how wrong it was. My junior year of high school, I really didn't talk to anyone. I went straight to class. People didn't see me anymore. People were confused. Some people thought that I transferred schools. And no, I was just broken. I was just mentally done. I was checked out. I was ready to graduate. Going back to when I moved out of my mom's house, I think a part of the reason why I did do that was because of what happened to me. When I was not living with my mom, I was sleeping on people's couches, friends' couches. I was sleeping at my sister's. I was going from house to house. I was homeless. At that time, my mom turned to alcohol a lot. It seemed like as I was getting closer to being 18 and graduating, it seemed like she just stopped caring more and more and more. And so she was turning to alcohol a lot more than usual. She worked at a bar in St. Louis. She loved her job, don't get me wrong. That was the first time I actually seen her enjoy life. It's just that she didn't care about anything else. I thought that by me moving out, it was to better my mom's and I relationship, but it actually made it a lot worse. We didn't talk for years. I couldn't see the positive in any of the negatives anymore. So fast forward my freshman year of college, 2019 to 2020, my mom calls me randomly and she's like, hey girl, how you been? How you doing? And I'm looking at the phone like, girl, we haven't talked, but something told me to just let it go. And my brother, he ends up texting me and he's like, hey, like, you should come home and surprise mom for her birthday. Like, she would really love it. And I was like, you know, I'm still angry. I'm still angry at the fact that I didn't have a lot of years with my mom. Partially to me moving out, but there was some things on her end that was just not healthy. And so, you know, I ended up just doing it. And I think if I didn't decide to go home and basically like start a relationship over, I don't know where I would be today. So my entire freshman year of college, it included drugs, boys, sex, alcohol, just drinking until I was numb. It was so bad to the point to where people around me wouldn't know if I was going to wake up or not. It started off drinking for fun because I'm a freshman in college, all these things, but I was slowly becoming an alcoholic my freshman year. Fast forward to the summer of 2020, I turned 19. I get my license, I get my car, I'm working a job that's okay, but this is the first time where I'm seeing like what money looks like. And my mom passes away. She dies 8 days after my 19th birthday. And I was the one who had to tell my siblings, my older siblings, that she passed away. So when she passed away, I just didn't care anymore. I was drinking bottles of vodka. I'm getting angry at anyone who tries to take the bottle from me. I'm smoking weed. I'm going to practice in class high. So for the first 3 months after she passed away, I did not care. I was 100% numb. And it kind of felt like I went back to high school when that thing happened to me. I was completely shut off from the world. And it got to a point to where I was so down and so confused and so frustrated that I did not want to be alive anymore. I didn't see the reason to be here. My thought process was, if my mom could die, I could too. I felt alone. I felt parentless. My dad had died. My mom had died. My siblings are all across the world. All I had was the friends that I met in college who had no idea how to love me. They were kids themselves. And so it got to a point to where I couldn't. Like, I physically, mentally couldn't. I was in my dorm room for days at a time, not taking showers, just drinking. Just drinking a bottle of vodka whenever I had on hand. One day I decided that, what's the point of living like this? If there's no fun, there's no joy, there's no laughter, there's just tears and numbness, what's the point of living? And it led me to drinking as much as I could and taking as many pills as I can. And that led me to going to sleep and being so confused on why I woke up. I woke up numb. I woke up scared. I woke up shaking. The only way that I was able to get help was because I somehow managed to get from my bed to the floor where my iPad was just waiting for me. And I remember calling my older sister. Before I could even say anything, she already knew. She already knew that the pain was too much. So my older sister ends up calling my other older sister. She's the Christian. She's the glue of the family. She's the one who I know is praying in her closet for our family to come to Christ. She says on the phone, she's like, you're packing your stuff up and you're coming home with me. There was no questions. There was nothing else to be said. It was as if she was prepared for this moment. I packed my clothes. I said goodbye to my friends. I quit wrestling and I moved. And God is so good. God is so good because if you think about everything I just told you, how my mom and I didn't talk when I wasn't living in her house. So one day she randomly texted me and calling me as if nothing happened. To my brother saying, hey, just come home and say hi to her. For us to gain our relationship back. And that was September of 2019. And her dying July 10th of 2020 is no one else but God. When you think about who he is and what he created and how he created and the fact that he's the most powerful, when you think about all of his characteristics, you will see and understand that the way that that timeline went wasn't coincidence. It wasn't ironic. It wasn't on accident. It was on purpose for a purpose. So me getting my relationship back with my mom, which was a very short time, if I'm being honest, it was so much needed. So I'm in Indiana. I'm still numb. I'm still depressed. My sister's praying. She's allowing me to be depressed. She's allowing me to be what I needed to be. And some days that look like me still not taking showers. Sometimes that looked like me having withdrawals from drinking. Sometimes that looked like me being angry and yelling. Sometimes that looked like me just locking myself in the room. And she slowly introduced me to Christ. It wasn't if you're going to be in my household, you have no option but to know. It was, I know you're hurting. I know you're frustrated and you're confused. And what got me was during the times where I was just depressed and down, I didn't understand why me and my sister looked different. Now, I'm not saying she didn't grieve. I'm not saying that she didn't cry. I'm not saying that she wasn't even angry. I'm saying the way that her demeanor was different. And I remember asking her one day, like, what is it? And ultimately, it was Jesus. She was able to grieve it, but the difference between me and her is she had Jesus. Jesus was with her. She had the joy of the Lord. And it was just so evident that there was something different about her. Once I understood that, I slowly became intrigued. I slowly became interested. Because my sister and I grew up from the same place. We grew up from the same hood. We were raised by the same mama. I wanted what she had. It got to a point to where I couldn't fake this feeling. I was transformed. I knew that there was something that I needed and I wanted. I was so thirsty and hungry for whatever my sister had. I needed to go seek after it. Eventually went to church. I eventually got a Bible, dug deeper, and it ended up leading me to giving my life to Christ and getting baptized at the same time. Now, I'm not saying when I gave my life to Christ that I had completely changed, because if I told you that, I would be lying. I was still craving the drinks. I was still craving the weed. I was still craving the unhealthy relationships. I was still a part of unhealthy relationships. I was still drinking, but now I had Jesus. What it looks like when you give your life to Christ is now you have the Holy Spirit inside of you. Now you have discernment. Now you have this feeling of conviction, and now you have a responsibility to deal with it. Now I have a different understanding when it comes to Christ. I have a different understanding of Elohim, the creator of everything. I have a different understanding of Yahweh. I have a different understanding of the provider. I have a different understanding of what it means to be sovereign, and God is sovereign. And what that means is that he doesn't change. While we change, he remains the same. You might meet people in your life who change. You might have changed. The same person who you were when you were 5 is not the same person you're going to be when you're 25. Because we're growing. We're changing. We're evolving. But God is one of those people who doesn't change. So when we're looking for joy, and we're looking for happiness, and we're looking for friendships and relationships, we have someone that doesn't change at all. We have someone who remains the same all the time. We have someone who loves us unconditionally. We have a friend. We have a father. And so when I say I felt parentless, when I became a Christian, I was no longer parentless, because I understood that I had the Father. here I am, 23 years old, 4 years later, married to the love of my life, in a different state, still struggling, but God, the devil is a liar. Don't allow the enemy to tell you things. He's a liar. You have authority over the enemy. You have the power to rebuke. Okay guys, that was my testimony, and that was all about how the Lord just transformed my life and made me new again. And I'm just so grateful that you guys stayed to watch the whole time. Thank you for allowing me to shed tears with you guys, to be vulnerable and transparent. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for being authentic and being yourself. I pray that I can continue to just bring this loving and transparent spirit to you guys all the time. I pray that you guys have a wonderful and blessed day. Bye.